look at. And that is what we believe is going to happen here momentarily. So many people waiting for this moment. Like we've said, so many people wanted to be here, right here, when Charlie Kirk arrived in Phoenix. And so we are waiting to see.
Just to backtrack a little bit, yesterday we got the notice that the second family, Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife, were going to travel to Salt Lake City. And that's where they were going to visit with Charlie Kirk's family and a number of close friends, and then escort the body of Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated yesterday, 31 years old, while holding a forum at Utah Valley University shortly after noon. And then we knew that they were going to fly to Phoenix, and this is where Turning Point USA is headquartered, in Phoenix, Arizona. And so we've been awaiting this for some time, and earlier this morning we started getting more information about timing, and they left Salt Lake City just a few hours ago. But as we've been tracking that plane, Air Force 2, we know that it has been moving quickly, and so we hit at 36 o'clock. They made that in time before that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The Vice President J.D. Vance actually posted on X about 20 hours ago talking about the origin of his friendship with Charlie Kirk, and I'll read a little bit about that as we await the casket to be brought out of Air Force 2. But Vice President wrote a while ago, probably in 2017, I appeared on Tucker Carlson's show to talk about God knows what. Afterward, a name I barely knew sent me a DM on Twitter and told me I did a great job. It was Charlie Kirk. And that moment of kindness began a friendship that lasted until today.
We had a student come in, he signed up for the course, and he's actually now coming in regularly for our labs. He's really trying to.
And we know he became very good friends with President Donald Trump. We have some flowers leaving Air Force 2 right now, being removed and definitely brought off that plane. But I was talking about this yesterday in the newsroom when President Donald Trump had one of his last campaign rallies here at Desert Diamond Arena. He spoke so highly of Charlie Kirk. In fact, when he took that stage, he couldn't say enough kind words about Charlie Kirk. And remember, Turning Point USA, they were the host of that event. But as I was mentioning to people yesterday, Charlie Kirk did speak at that event. He got loud applause, and people were, screaming his name and stuff. And immediately after leaving that stage, he had a crew of people, his security team, moving him through that arena, and people were going out of their way to shake his hand and meet him. And immediately after the rally, when the arena had already cleared out, he held his own mini rally with the people who he had gathered for that event, because he was known for reaching out to the younger generation and really supporting that ground game for President Trump, for people to get out the vote and get people registered.
Yeah, and as we continue to take a look at the casket being removed here from Air Force 2, being brought back to Arizona from Salt Lake City, Utah, where Charlie Kirk was assassinated yesterday. The thing that a lot of people are talking about is his willingness to go into what were sometimes hostile crowds and to, as you were saying, Javier, earlier, say, debate me. Let's have a debate about the ideas. And he was not afraid to go out there and take on people who had different opinions. Now, he had sometimes very controversial opinions himself. And, many people are vehemently opposed to some of the ideas that he supported and what he did. But certainly the events of yesterday were horrific all around.
We're going to watch as they remove this casket from Air Force 2, and it's hard to make out where they're headed or how they're going to bring it down. I would imagine some sort of lift. And so this is the first time we're seeing that casket, the body of Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated yesterday, 31 years old, leaves behind a wife, Erica, who is a former Miss Arizona, and two young kids.
Yeah, and that's have been one of the most difficult things to see is the images of the family together. Some of the images that we've seen over the last day of one of his young children running up to him as he's being interviewed, and how much he loved and very clearly enjoyed having his family around him.
You were talking about the personal relationship he had and formed with Vance. And one of the things that kind of stood out was at one point, remember, Kurt, as well as Vance, both kind of personally and politically, they were kind of skeptical about Donald Trump in 2016. And we know how that changed over time. And really, Kirk being the driving force for getting President Donald Trump reelected.
Yeah, and Donald Trump Jr. also very active, obviously, on X, and talking about his reaction to all of this, talking a bit about his friend again, saying he wasn't just a friend, he was like a little brother to me and to millions of people around the world, a true inspiration, one of the most courageous, principled men I've ever known, and he lived every day with purpose. His faith in God was unshakable. His love for Erica, that's his wife, was inspiring, and the way he adored and cared for his two beautiful children showed the kind of man he truly is. The words of Donald Trump Jr., a close friend of Charlie Kirk's.
And people on the other side of the aisle speaking out against the political violence, saying there is no place in America for that political violence, for something like this to happen. Unfortunately, we've seen it over the past few years where it's only seemed to escalate.
On both sides of the aisle. Absolutely.
Absolutely, on both sides. But, yesterday, the governor of Utah coming out and saying, guys, this is time to look in the mirror and really take a deep breath on how we want our future to look.
Yeah, and certainly freedom of speech, one of the founding principles of this nation. As you take a look there at the executive terminal and the flag flying at half staff with all those Secret Service agents there behind it.
Ashley, what are you seeing from your vantage point at this point?
Yeah, well, we just saw flowers that were being brought out of Air Force Two. We just saw the casket brought down, and now we are waiting for this session to take place. Like I said, we've seen motorcycles preparing, Secret Service still stationed on the roof, watching everything that is taking place very, very carefully. And I do want to describe to you kind of the tone that is taking place here. Obviously, so many people wanted to see Air Force Two. They had their phones out and they were recording, and some of them still are. But you can feel that somberness and that sadness and that emotion here as all of this takes place, as people were seeing that casket taken out of Air Force Two and Charlie Kirk arriving back here in Arizona.
And Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica Kirk, I was just checking her social media accounts, and she has been posting Bible verses within the last day or two. Certainly their faith was a core component of their relationship, very strong in their faith.
How long before I see results with Tai Chi?
Day 3, you'll feel your energy. Day 7, your eyes will change. Day 28, you will become unrecognized.
Commissioner Will Mason, if he would narrate to you this evil human being. So we're going to queue up the video so that we can get help from the public in tracking down stills. Those have already been released, but we want to make sure that they get as much attention as possible so that we can. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here tonight, media, and the partnership we have with you in helping us to get information out to the public so that we can catch this assassin and hold him accountable. We are going to share a portion of a video and that we have of the suspect, as well as some new stills. Those have already been released, but we want to make sure that they get as much attention as possible so that we can get help from the public in tracking down this evil human being. So we're going to cue up the video right now. Show that. I've asked Commissioner Bo Mason if he would narrate to you what is happening in this video.
Thank you, Governor. Bo Mason, Commissioner for the Utah Department of Public Safety. If you look up to the top left, you'll see the building where the shooter was proned out in the top left corner. We'll go ahead and play that video and I'll narrate as we walk through that. So here you see the suspect ran behind that upper building. He's going to come out on the right, moves to this far right corner. As he does, he's going to climb off the edge and then drop down to the ground. As he did that, he left some palm impressions. There's some smudges, some places we're looking to collect DNA. There's a shoe imprint where we believe the suspect is clearly identified as wearing Converse tennis shoes. Again, we'll replay that again so you can get another view of that. It's important to note his black t-shirt, his black pants, and there appears to be some white on the soles of those Converse tennis shoes. Those are all identifiable items that we're looking for. In the stills that are going to follow this, you're going to see a very distinctive t-shirt with an American flag and appears to have an eagle on it. There's also a baseball cap with a triangle on it and a pair of sunglasses. All distinctive, all things that we would ask the public to look for and try to identify if they know someone who has those items, who has been seen wearing those items. We're looking for all that information. Here you see the suspect after dropping off the building. He moved around across this grass area, around the parking lot. We're going to pan to the right. After he crosses the street, this is where he moves over into the wooded area. This is the video evidence that we utilize to track his movements and to locate that firearm in that wooded area following the discovery of this evidence. You want to go to the stills? So here's the still photographs. I mentioned these have been enhanced. So these are slightly different than what we introduced earlier. Please pay close attention to the t-shirt. Like I said, very distinctive with that American flag and that eagle. The hat with the triangle and the sunglasses. You go to the next picture, please. The backpack as well. All identifying features that we're hoping the public can help us identify and lead us to this suspect. Next picture. And again, there's a better picture of the hat with that triangle logo, and again, the t-shirt, blue jeans, and you get a good look at those Converse tennis shoes as well. We have pushed these out. We'll continue to push these out, and we just ask for the public's cooperation through the public. The tips that have been coming in are what are giving us our next leads and enabling us to continue to further this investigation. We've had great cooperation from the public, and we're continuing to ask for that as we move forward. Thank you, and I'll turn time back over to Governor Cox.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mason. I want to thank Director Patel and his team. It's great to have them on the ground with us tonight. We've had several briefings, and he's had an opportunity to walk the crime scene. We appreciate our local law enforcement here. Again, we have Mike Smith, who is the county sheriff here. We have all of our local chiefs of police that are here as well, all working hand in hand with the state and with the FBI as we move forward with this investigation. Now, just give you a little warning, we will not be taking any questions at this time. We're giving you the latest information we have, being as transparent with everything that we have. But I do want to share a couple things that I think are important. We cannot do our job without the public's help right now. The public has answered our call for action. So far, we've received more than 7,000 leads and tips. I would just note that the FBI hasn't received this many digital media tips from the public since the Boston Marathon bombing. This case also highlights the dedication of our law enforcement community. We have 20 federal, state, and local law enforcement partners that are working shoulder to shoulder to find the person who committed this horrific crime. With their support, we've completed nearly 200 interviews. As you're aware, as has already been reported, the FBI is offering a $100,000 reward for information leading to the identification and arrest of the person responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk. We also continue to implore the public to support this investigation and come forward with any information. We are truly hopeful that this video and new photos will lead to even more tips. We are processing. We have an incredible team, a state and federal team working together to process those tips. We're going out in tandem to interview any potential person of interest or suspects. But we need, again, we need as much help as we can possibly get. Any videos or photos that you might have, the public, should be submitted to our digital media tip line, which is www.fbi.gov/Utah Valley shooting, all lowercase. Again, that is fbi.gov/Utah Valley shooting, all lowercase. You can also provide general tips about the shooting by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI. That's 1-800-CALL-FBI, or at tips.fbi.gov. This is, I would just say, this is not just a local matter here in Utah. We have people all over the country that are helping to bring this perpetrator to justice for Charlie Kirk and his family. I will just add as well that, as was mentioned, there is a lot of forensic evidence that is being processed right now at both the state lab and the federal labs, the federal lab on the East Coast. So we are working in tandem together. I would also just add a word of note for those people who are spending so much time on social media. I think Charlie said it best, that when things get bad, we should put our phones down and spend a little time with our families. There is a tremendous amount of disinformation. We are tracking our team, the state team, and I'm sure the federal team as well. What we're seeing is our adversaries want violence. China, we have bots from Russia, China, all over the world that are trying to instill disinformation and encourage violence. I would encourage you to ignore those, to turn off those streams, and spend a little more time with our families. We desperately need some healing. We'll have more to say about that in the days and weeks to come. More than anything, we are going to catch this person. Last thing I will just say is we've been working with our attorneys, getting everything that we need, affidavits ready, so that we can pursue the death penalty in this case, and that will happen here in the state of Utah. Again, to the public, to those who are grieving, thank you for your prayers. I know we are feeling those prayers. I know the Kirk family is feeling those prayers as well. We pray that God will bless our nation at this very dark time. We can start healing by finding this perpetrator and holding him accountable, and we need your help to do that. Thank you.
Healing from the shooting of Charlie Cox. Just to run you through some of the points that he made, he also said that he also said, let me just run you through what he said. Governor Cox was saying that they cannot do their job without the public, that they've received 1,700 tips or more from the public. They've done 200 interviews. There's a reward of $100,000 information leading to the identification and capture of the suspect. He said that forensic evidence is also being processed. And for those on social media, he referenced a quote from Charlie Kirk himself, saying that when things get bad, put down your phones and go to your loved ones. He said there's lots of social media misinformation out there. Before that, we also heard from Utah Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bo Mason. He was talking through some of the details of this new footage that we've just seen, a video footage of the suspect departing or climbing down from the roof of the building. You can see these most recent pictures that have been released as well. identifying the suspect as having a black shirt with an American flag and an eagle, black pants, Converse tennis shoes, a black cap with a triangle logo on it. And we also saw footage of him climbing down from the roof and making his way through a car park and into a forested area. Now let's reconnect with our North American correspondent, David Willis there. David, we got quite a bit of detail about, or some footage as well of the suspect that they're hunting for. But they didn't entertain any questions, and Kash Patel himself didn't speak either. What did you make of that news conference? What stood out to you most?
It suggests to me, Steve, that they are struggling, and there's now more than 24 hours, of course, since this attack was carried out, and they are having perhaps identified someone of interest. They appear to be no closer than they have been to apprehending that particular suspect. As you mentioned, a long list of the clothing that this person of interest was wearing. They said that he was spotted on CCTV footage roaming around the campus, having arrived there about a few minutes before Mr. Kirk was due to start speaking, and then to have taken a position on a roof overlooking the area from which he was due to speak, and firing a single shot before dropping down. And there they used the video that they have garnered to show the suspect dropping down onto a grassy area and then departing and fleeing into nearby woodland. Very interesting, I think, Steve, the fact that mention was made there of bots, which Spencer Cox, the Utah governor, said were attempting to foment violence through disinformation. He went on to urge people to ignore those messages and basically spend more time, as he put it, with their families. So not a lot new. And as you mentioned, Kash Patel not speaking in that press conference, no questions being taken, and the suggestion being that this was a very well-planned attack and one that continues to fox the officials there investigating it more than 24 hours after it took place.
Yeah, and David, just to carry on, Mr. Cox was talking about turning away from social media, about misinformation, about bots as well. We were reporting earlier, or we were discussing earlier as well, about TikTok proactively removing videos of Kirk's killing as well. But they aren't going to be relying a lot on information from the public. I mean, they did ask very directly for people with any information or any footage that they may have had from the event to send it in. And we know this was a student campus. There were a lot of people with a lot of mobile phone devices, and they'll be hoping that some of the footage that might be able to be retrieved from that might give them more clues about the identity or where the shooter went next.
Absolutely. And it's a dilemma for them, isn't it? Because this is clearly a massive inquiry. Spencer Cox mentioning there 7,000 different leads, more leads than have been phoned into the FBI since the Boston Marathon bombing investigation back in 2013, and 200 interviews having been conducted so far. A massive investigation, which would explain why it was revealed earlier today that the U.S. Marshals Department has been drafted in to help its members, also helping alongside state police and, of course, the FBI, who are leading this investigation. But it does seem as though they have very little really to tell us, and they are really rooting for a member of the public to come forward and identify the person with that backpack, with that fairly distinctive T-shirt, and of course the tennis shoes that Mr. Cox was talking about.
Yeah, they do have some specific details about what the suspect was wearing. Whether or not that will lead to anything, we'll have to wait and see. Thanks very much for that, David. We might come back to you a bit later on, but in the meantime, let's get the thoughts of Michael Alcazar. He's a retired NYPD detective and hostage negotiator. He is an adjunct professor at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Thanks so much for joining me, Michael, to talk about this. So you were listening along to that news conference as well. What did you make of it, and what stood out to you most?
Well, I was surprised because initially they didn't want to release the image of the suspect, and recently in a few hours they released the image. So it sounds like they are struggling to identify the perpetrator. They're hoping that the public can provide some information, especially with the clothing that he's wearing, his walk, his gait, his sunglasses. So they're waiting for somebody to provide a tip that'll be probative, that can help identify this person. They do have evidence. They do have DNA evidence, fingerprints, I'm sure, from the weapon that was recovered, but that is a process before they can identify who that weapon belongs to. So I think time is of the essence. They don't want to waste time. So they're hoping for some good tips that can come in that can help identify this person. I myself saw social media images of this individual, and I don't know if you saw it, but the image I saw was that he was limping. So now it makes sense because I see this video of him leaping off the roof of that building. He potentially could have injured himself. And again, that could help identify him if someone sees that video.
Yeah, it's remarkable to see this sort of footage in broad daylight, just climbing down from this roof and dropping down onto the grass before making his way across. You'd have to think, or you'd have to hope that someone may have witnessed that unusual behavior. You'd have to think, given where he was, what he was doing. What will the authorities then be looking to sort of, does this increase this, now that so much time has passed, does this mean that they have to expand their search area and expand the resources that they're using to try and find him?
Yeah, sure. There's always the potential that he could have left the state. We saw that happen with Luigi Mangione. We thought we were going to catch him really quick, and it took, several days, and it took the tip from somebody seeing him in a restaurant. So I guess this is what they're hoping for, that someone can identify this person. And yeah, again, time's of the essence. It's been about 24 hours. They don't want him to get away any further. They don't want him jumping in a car or traveling across state lines. So yeah, so they're distributing his image, his video, so we can get a quick tip and hopefully apprehend the suspect.
Are you optimistic at this point in time, given how little information we kind of have other than the images that we've seen?
I think so. I think they're going to apprehend him very soon. The images are good. Somebody's going to recognize him. A family member, a friend, and then, acquaintances, co-workers. There's a huge tip on the line. I think someone's going to give some good information that authorities can work with.
Yeah, and I suppose it really is a bit of a cat and mouse game. We just don't know how long that could take. In your experience, though, has manhunts become easier with the prevalence of so many people on social media, on cameras everywhere, and surveillance, that it's become easier to track down and find people in instances like this?
Yeah, I'm confident it's exactly what they're doing right now. They're canvassing all video surveillance. They're tracking his movement. Ring door cameras if he's walking by a residence. And now that his image is out there and his video's out there, there's going to be more tips. And hopefully they're good tips that they could work with instead of, bad information. Some people just want to call in and give bad tips, to perhaps because, they don't support Charlie Kirk. So that's something else that they gotta, comb through. So it's a lot of information that they have to go through.
Yeah, and just to get your thoughts, we heard in the news conference just the two people speaking there. We saw FBI Director Kash Patel, but he didn't speak at all. And we also didn't see any questions being fielded to reporters that were in the room. And there still are many questions that remain. Why do you think that was, that the briefing was, well, in effect, so brief?
I mean, it could be that they're keeping their cards close to their chest. Maybe they have information that could lead to their arrest. Maybe it's happening right now, or they just don't have any information. And this is what they need right now. They're relying on the public to be the eyes and ears out there looking for this perpetrator.
Yeah, what would you think? What do you think they will be doing then? What's the next step? And how much in terms of resources are you seeing being put into this manhunt?
Well, they have the federal authorities helping out, and they said the U.S. Marshals and, of course, the Utah City and State Police. So it's a massive manhunt. They're distributing these photos and videos to other police agencies. I mean, the whole world's seen what this guy looks like right now. So it's just a matter of time before. And again, it does sound a little desperate, but it's just a matter of time before hopefully someone calls it in, identifies this guy, gives a location. Now, if this guy's also watching us, right? This perpetrator. So he could be holed up somewhere, and maybe that's why the investigation's kind of gone dead a little bit, because they can't track where he's gone to. So he might just be in hiding right now. So again, that's something that's going to make it more difficult. Again, that's when issues will come into play. Canvassing for video surveillance, any kind of like electronic data. I don't know if they can ping phones in the area. So this is also technology they can use.
Michael, thanks very much for your expertise and insight. Michael Alcazar there, retired NYPD detective and hostage negotiator. He's an adjunct professor at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Well, let's continue the discussion with Dennis Franks. He's a retired FBI supervisor, special agent. Dennis, thanks very much for your time there. I just want to get your thoughts on the fact that we didn't hear from FBI Director Kash Patel in that news conference. And the details that we found, I mean, we saw a new video, but the images that we've seen, we had seen before. Does this point to the fact that the investigation hasn't moved on too far?
Well, first of all, it is a local and state investigation, and the FBI is assisting. So it's not terribly surprising that Director Patel did not speak, although it does strike me as a little unusual. Secondly, these investigations take some time. I think that obviously the state and local, authorities have their resources. The FBI has come in, and without a doubt, the FBI has established a command post, which entails a crisis management infrastructure with analysts in computer systems, and ciphering through all the leads that come in, all the tips that come in. They're analyzed, and then leads are given to investigators to go out. They've obviously looked at all the video surveillance and from attendees as well as the campus cameras. And what's important in these investigations is the neighborhood canvas is going out, as it was referred to earlier, and just knocking on doors, ringing doorbells, talking to people, getting any information they have, any video footage they have. And I suspect that's how they determined where the gun was found, in a wooded area in a neighborhood. They probably was able to track it that way. So I think that's all important. All the analysis of metadata is all important. There are other probably cyber techniques that are being utilized, but it's going to come down largely, I think, to somebody recognizing him. There have been some photos. I just looked at one on social media, which has a very distinct picture of him, a view of his face, even though he's wearing a cap and glasses, which are, obviously pretty good camouflage in some ways, but it is a very good image of his face. Somebody's going to recognize him. In that person or persons, more likely more than one, are going to piece together some things they know, maybe some things he's commented on, things of that nature, and he's going to be identified. I think it's just a matter of time. But then it's a matter of locating him. Where is he? It has been 24 hours, over 24 hours. He could be anywhere. He could be hiding out somewhere. He could have crossed state lines. He could have been, perhaps even in Canada by now, or further south. So, but this is just typical, part of an investigation of this nature, with the resources that are devoted to it and the public's help, which is very important. I think it's just a matter of time before he's identified, and he'll eventually be located. I mean, it took over 5 years to find Eric Rudolph, who was the Atlanta, Olympics bomber back decades ago. And he was hiding in the mountains of North Carolina. So I don't think it's going to take that long. I hope not, but he will be found eventually.
Yeah, Dennis, while we were looking at the images of him climbing down from that rooftop, I mean, the images are quite far away and quite grainy, and they are hard to make out. But you mentioned about the weapon found in the wooded area. Even from the still shots, it's hard to see a weapon in any of those shots, so, which raises, I suppose, more questions of of where the weapon was, specifically where it was found, and also if he left it perhaps behind. It's just hard to say. I mean, we're looking at the images now, and it's very hard to make out whether or not he has a weapon or a rifle in particular with him. Just want to get your thoughts on his ability, or the shooter's ability, to carry out what he's done and be able to conceal evidence of like a firearm or more sort of evidence like that.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, the question is, was he an experienced shooter? Was he a sniper? Did he have sniper training? I don't think that's necessary, because anybody who has trained at a firearms range with a rifle, with a scope, the optics are important. They've trained 150-yard shot is not that difficult. However, it is very difficult when the stressors are applied. In other words, if somebody's going to do this, they've got to be concerned about being recognized. Are they going to be shot at? There are a lot of stressors that go into place. Anytime somebody, even a trained sniper, takes a shot, and they train for this, they go through the stressors. They will run, they will go through calisthenics, and they have to sit down and shoot. I mean, even FBI snipers have to shoot a cue ball from 200 yards after running in calisthenics, and they have to shoot it 3 times, not just once, but 3 of them from 200 yards. So for him to be able to do this, I don't think that he was
do carry
necessarily.
on. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, I don't think he had to necessarily be trained, but he probably had experience. If he's from the area, he's probably a hunter. So he's adept at being able to zero in rifles with the optics, with the scope, but it still required a lot of confidence to be able to take the shot and to be able to execute it and hit where it did. I mean, whether he was aiming for the head or the torso, upper torso, or the neck, it doesn't matter. For him to be able to hit that, it was luck or skill, and it requires a lot of confidence. It requires controlling the breath, taking in windage, in account for windage and things of that nature. So also, it appears he had the gun disassembled in his backpack and went up the stairs, and probably, a lot of guns, you can take the barrel off, you can put it back on, and then evidently he took time to disassemble it and put it back in his backpack. It is a mystery to me why he dumped it, why he discarded the weapon where he did, where it could be found. Unless he was afraid that he would be, located later with it on him. So there's evidence there. There's obviously prints on the gun, probably DNA. So it is a matter of time too. He may not have prints, on record, but he will be, determined. He will be discovered at some point. The other thing I wanted to point out about him having the confidence and being able to put aside any fears is that he was on a mission. It's clear that he had his own personal ideology that he was going to accomplish this. He was going to carry this out, regardless of whatever fears, whatever he may encounter. And I tend to think that from a behavioral standpoint that he acted alone. My experience is with, not only terrorists, but mass shooters, is that there are these lone wolves, and I refer to them as malcontents looking for a cause. They look for a cause to be a part of, to make it bigger than themselves, to carry out whatever they're disgruntled about. And I think this person fits that profile.
Yeah, Dennis, and just one last question for you. What are you looking out for next then that will sort of tell us which way or how close the FBI is getting?
The press conferences are important to glean whatever they have. And again, this last one, I don't think there was a lot of new information other than the video, which was good to see. The frequency and the amount of information delivered in the press conferences will tell us a lot. At some point, there may be fewer conferences. And again, I think that we all have to be patient, that this may take some time. But I think there's more likely than not that he will be identified, and then it's a matter of how much time it takes to find him, and that's an open question.
Dennis, thanks very much for your thoughts. Really appreciate you speaking with me and giving us your expertise and your insight there. Dennis Franks, retired FBI supervisory specialist.
My pleasure.
And let's get more from our North America correspondent, David Willis. David, we've seen a press conference earlier giving a bit more details, and we've seen video as well of the suspect climbing down from a roof. A lot of the focus, though, of that news conference was about the public being involved and the ability for them to provide more information to help with authorities. Tell us a bit more about that aspect of it.
Well, it's very interesting, Steve, because it will be very interesting to see what the release of these latest still pictures and the video images does as far as what it yields as far as this investigation is concerned, from tips from members of the public. And officials at that news conference made the point that they'd already received more than 7,000 tips and pieces of information and conducted more than 200 interviews. And he said, as far as tips were concerned, that was the most that the FBI had received in an inquiry of this kind since the Boston Marathon bombing back in April of 2013. I remember covering that particular story, and it was after the release of some pictures, some still pictures of the two brothers who it turned out were the perpetrators of that attack, the Tsarnaev brothers, that within a matter of hours, the two were located and were brought to justice.
Yeah, and David, we'll have to see if that information from the public in this case as well also leads to a similar outcome. Our North America correspondent, David Willis there, thank you so much. Now, Charlie Kirk is credited with helping President Trump rally the youth vote in the 2024 U.S. election, partly thanks to his engagement in debates and forums. He was one of the highest profile conservative activists and media personalities in the United States, but was also a highly polarizing figure. Here's more of who Charlie Kirk was and what he believed in his own words.
My position on abortion is unpopular in my country. I don't want to scare you guys too much. I am in the vast minority of my own political party on this issue. Proudly, because I'm morally correct. I'm on the right side of history. When all the chips are down and when all the biology is settled, it will be very simple and very clear that we have made every excuse in the book to try to eliminate life smaller than us for simply inconveniences. We have all intents to march every way through the institutions, from the cultural places of power and eventually political, to abolish abortion in America. Trump has ordered DEI to be torn down, but I want him to tear it down faster. I want every university told that they're losing all federal dollars immediately if they don't stop racial discrimination. I want the Department of Justice to start auditing every federal contractor to find DEI and shut off contracts immediately wherever we find it. This is a kind of cancer that cannot be phased out. It must be ripped out from the core. The same goes for the toxic social contagion of transgenderism. In Joe Biden's America, public schools and medical organizations were co-opted into endorsing.
We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society with armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
Hello there. The weather story across Africa has not changed much in recent days. We have been keeping a close eye on the seasonal rains. They've been fairly active.